Hey guys, this is a review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the new Star Wars movie. First off, how it compares to Force Awakens. Well, no. First off, I'm gonna be trying to make at least my movie reviews more concise. If I might go in depth with some, maybe do spoiler talk or something, but I'm gonna try to be more concise with the reviews because I kind of mumble through them. Rogue One. First off, how does it compare to Star Wars: The Force Awakens? I think that Rogue One is better. I don't know if everybody else will agree with me, but personally, I think Rogue One is better because better action, a more original story, and really nice tie-ins to the original trilogy, A New Hope in particular. Force Awakens has better characters, but almost everything else is better in Rogue One, in my opinion. Now for the direct Rogue One reviewing. First, I'll address the lack of the difference in character quality between Force Awakens and Rogue One. Rogue One, the characters themselves are not very memorable. Other than the main character Jin, I cannot remember a single new character name. I'm trying to think of one now. There's the Asian guy. I don't remember his name. There's his buddy. Definitely don't remember his name. There's the robot, who I probably would remember his name if it was like R2D2 or something like an easy name. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. I think it was like KRT or something. I don't know. It was something that did not roll off the tongue because the robot was pretty memorable. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Then there's her ship captain friend, or from the rebellion, who's probably the least memorable of the characters, maybe. And then there's the defective pilot from the Empire. He's probably the least memorable, actually. But all in all, the characters are just not that good. Even Jin, the one that I do remember the name of, the main character, the only reason I remember her name is because she's the main character. She's not that good. Like, just none of the characters are developed very well. The beginning is kind of slow. It takes a while to pick up to where you can actually understand what's going on. And, like, I remember the villains' names. There's Krennic, who's trying to build the Death Star, and he recruited Jin's father, and that's part of why she joins the mission. She wants to find her father. And then there's Tarkin, who was in the original trilogy, and they CGI'd him into this movie because the actor was dead, and he's good, but he kind of steals the spotlight from Krennic, to be honest. And then, of course, there's Darth Vader, who's not in much of the movie, so don't go in expecting to see like all Darth Vader all the time. He's in like two scenes. Um, one of those scenes is absolutely awesome, and I'll talk about it in a minute, maybe. Um, so the characters are not great, but that's fine. It's not really focused on the characters that much. Like they're just not developed. Some of them are very funny. Like the robot, almost every line he has is a is like laugh out loud funny. Like he's very sarcastic and snarky, and that's very entertaining. I think I kind of find him as a mix of C3PO from the original trilogy and Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. He kind of just says what he thinks, but he also has that like kind of self-important like attitude of C3PO, but not quite as obnoxious. I mean, not that C3PO was obnoxious, but uh, and then there's but and then the Asian guy is cool. I just don't remember his name. He's this like force kind of like he's basically like the old like sensei monk in all the kung fu movies, and he like kind of can use the force. He's blind too, but he like kicks butt. He's kind of like Daredevil from the Daredevil show. He's like blind, but he can do all this. His catchphrase, he always says, "I'm one with the force. The force is with me. I'm one with the force. The force is with me." And that it's cool to see somebody who's like involved with the force, but not exactly a Jedi per se. And then there's like the character of his friend who's like pretty unmemorable to be honest, although he does have a pretty great moment at the end, which I'll talk about in a bit. But like all the other characters are just not like memorable. And there's a lot of like kind of boring stuff in the beginning with the characters meeting up and like it really picks up once they start going after the Death Star plans. Particularly the final sequence of the movie in which they invade the like Empire headquarters. Well, not the Empire headquarters, but like a big Empire planet where the Death Star plans are held. Because that's the primary plot of the movie, in case you don't know, is the Death Star plans are hunting down the Death Star. They're trying to find the Death Star plans with Jen Erso's father built into the Death Star a flaw on purpose because he was actually like good, but he knew that they would build it without him. So, which is great because it fills out the plot hole, the major plot hole in the original movie, A New Hope. Like, why is there that obvious trench that leads into that thing that just explodes the whole Death Star? Like, why is that there? Well, this movie explains why that's there. It's because the man who made the Death Star plans was like secretly trying to help the rebels, and he got the message out through the pilot, the defected pilot, and he served. That's the purpose he serves. And the movie really picks up once they get to once they go try to rescue the death try to get the Death Star plans from this base on I don't remember the name of the planet. There was another thing I liked about this movie. All the planets were new. Like I don't think they reused a single like planet. I mean, there was mentions of like Alderaan and stuff, but like never did they land on it. Like every single planet in the movie was a new planet that had not been seen in previous movies, and they had some really creative stuff, like with like the worlds that they went to. Like one of the opening scenes, because the opening of the movie has like a lot of like like short scenes with different characters that don't really connect until later on. One of the places they're on is like this trading outpost, and there's like these it's hard to display it with one hand, but there's like an asteroid. It's like in an asteroid belt. And there's like an asteroid up here and an asteroid down here, and then there's like a little like tower city maze thing connecting the two. It's really hard to explain. Maybe I'll just edit in an image of it. No, I won't. But you can probably find it. It was just a really cool visual. There's a lot of really cool visuals. There are some effects, like certain like effects they use that are like blatantly reminiscent of A New Hope. And I mean, The Force Awakens had stuff like that too, but A New Hope has shots that are like it's clear that they have some shots. There's a lot of Star Destroyers and stuff like that. And there's some shots with like the Star Destroyer and the Death Star that are like clearly practical effects, like A New Hope styled classic old practical effects like that. And the only thing that keeps the only thing that shows that they're done modern, that they're being done in the modern age rather than back when the first movie came out, is the HD crisp like camera quality. And there's just some really cool shots like that. Like if you thought The Force Awakens was a nice had some nice uses of practical effects, Rogue One ups that completely. Like there's so much, and even the CGI they do use is pretty good. Like Tarkin, I was convinced by his CG. Like he looked like he was there. Leia I was not as convinced by, because she appears for like a second and they use CG on her face because you know, Carrie Fisher's really well. Carrie Fisher's dead now. Rip Carrie Fisher. May she rest in peace. But like when they filmed it, Carrie Fisher was old. But but that CG was a bit off. But that might have just been because I knew that I knew that she was older, so I was like looking to try and figure out how did they film that. Whereas with Tarkin, I didn't realize the actor was dead, so I didn't realize it was CG, so I didn't really think about it. But now that I've talked about the effects and the characters, the final portion I'd like to talk about is just the final sequence. And if this is the end of the movie, so if you don't want spoilers, I'm going to be talking spoilers now. So you can stop watching. I'll wait. Okay. But okay, so the final sequence, they fly into this base. They kind of split up, and it's basically just one long action sequence. Initially, the rebellion doesn't want to help them, so they kind of just like go on their own mission. But then the rebellion realizes, hey, wait a minute, we're not screwed, even though the Death Star is coming. If we can get those Death Star plans, which they didn't believe like actually had a flaw in them at first. Like they thought Jyn Erso's dad was just trying to like trick them or something. But the rebels were convinced, and then they're like, okay, we gotta. So the whole fleet shows up, complete with an Admiral Akbar-esque character. He's literally the same species, just like a different color, leading the force. And so they're on the outside, but they can't get in because the planet is defended by this like shield system. So they have to get down the shield so they can transmit the plans for the Death Star out of the base. And oh, there's just so much cool action. And spoiler alert, but not that much of a spoiler because, well, I already put a spoiler warning, but whatever. Everybody dies. That's what I'm trying to say. Everyone dies. Well, all the main characters die. Jyn, the robot. The robot's the first one to die, which is like, rip, dude, because he's so funny. And then when he dies, I was like, what? I forgot that these characters were probably all gonna die before the next movie. So when the robot died, I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And then the Asian guy died, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why? And that was actually a pretty touching moment because his buddy, who's kind of like skeptical, never really believed in the Force, kind of just hangs out with him because his buddy is all like, I'm one with the Force is with me, and then he like charges into battle saying that, and then also dies. But there's a nice little moment there. And then Jyn dies, the guy dies when the Empire uses the Death Star to blow up the planet. I told you there was going to be spoilers. But the Death Star plans do get transmitted out before that because the rebellion manages to take down the shields and like get some of their men. There's just cool space battles, people getting shot down in the air, Star Destroyer. Oh my God, there's an awesome sequence where the rebels ram this little. This is a really cool sequence. So if you haven't seen the movie, skip past this part because it's really good, and I don't want to spoil it for you. Although you probably have by now. I'm recording this movie review a while after it comes out. Anyway, so there's this smaller ship, and it charges, and it like rams into one of the Star Destroyers, right? It pushes the Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer goes, and gets like pushed off of its course as this little tiny rebel ship. I don't even know, like practically it probably should not have worked the way it did, but it was a cool shot, so I don't care. The rebel ship like pushes this Star Destroyer with it like maximum propulsion on it, pushes the Star Destroyer into another Star Destroyer, and they both just collide and they explode, and it's cool. It's really cool. But not as cool as the shortly after following scene where Darth Vader shows up, and there's a rebel ship trying to take off, and Darth Vader shows up, and the door, and there's these rebels in this like corridor trying to get their ship off of like another rebel ship or something. I don't really remember, but Darth Vader shows up, and the door opens, and there's all this darkness and fog, and you hear, and then his lightsaber lights up, and it's like, and then there's a couple rebels like pointing their guns, and there's just a shot of the one in front going, oh no, we're dead. And then he just starts cutting them down. He force lifts this one guy onto the roof, and then he like whacks this other dude. And initially they're like trying to get out. They're like, hey, other rebels, open the door so we can escape. But then after he kills a couple dudes, they're just like, here, take the plans, go, get out of here while you still can. And he just like rams through these guys, busts the door open. There's another door and more guys, and they're passing the Death Star plans along, and he's like, I'm gonna get you. And then he slams open the door, and he just misses them as they take off, and you see him standing there, and he's like, "Oh, but it's so cool." Just Darth Vader kicking ass for a good like minute. Absolutely worth it, even though he's only in like two scenes. The two scenes he's in are great. One of them, he has a great line about choking, force choking, and then the other one, he just kicks ass. It's like, I'm not disappointed at all. Darth Vader was great in this movie. That single one scene would have been enough for me because that was just awesome. But yeah, that's the whole review. Great movie, of course. I mean, it's better than The Force Awakens, and I'm pretty sure I reviewed that one and said to go see it. So, arrivederci!